It's time for Rock Solid Sports.
The crowd comes alive. The Volunteers are ready. It's football time in Tennessee.
Dobbs drops back, fires long for the end zone. The pass is going to be caught by Tennessee. Tennessee wins by Tennessee. Jawan Jennings. What a turn of events.
Give him
To the checkerboards. Touchdown, Tennessee.
Rock Solid Sports, the only show with a home field advantage for UT Athletics. Here's tonight's host.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Friday night edition of Rock Solid Sports here on 90.3 The Rock. I'm your host, Jack Foster, joined alongside producer for tonight, Jace Brown. Across the glass, we got Justin Clemmer. We got a fun show for you guys playing tonight, talking football, which is what we do on Fridays. And we usually have the Friday Five here. Actually, I say usually. We haven't in a minute, but only a three-man show tonight as we're missing Riley and Griffin. They're on some respective trips for fall break. And, gents, how about fall break? It's fall break. Fall break starts tonight. Let's go.
Absolutely, yeah. Glad to have parents in town this weekend. Going to spend a little bit of time with them. I haven't seen them in a minute. So vibes are high. Came off a win from last week. Couldn't be feeling better right now.
Yeah.
Justin, how about fall break? You got any big plans?
Not exactly.
We'll get to Justin here in a second. I personally don't have any big plans. I'm going to go home. I'm actually driving across the state after the show, so I got a long night ahead of me. But, you know, I love driving in the middle of the night. It's like one of my favorite things. I'm weird like that, you know. But let's get conversation started. Sure. And we're going to talk Tennessee football first. And, guys, last week, Tennessee beat South Carolina 41-20, a great win for the Volunteers. And South Carolina was a game that I think coming into the season, a lot of people didn't know, or a lot of people were confident, rather, that Tennessee was going to win, given the talent gap and just the fact that Tennessee's going to be playing this game at home and the revenge factor, all those things. But after the Florida loss, some doubts crept in. And, you know, games like South Carolina, Kentucky, Missouri, we'll get to those two later on in the show. But South Carolina, the depths crept in that maybe that game wasn't a sure thing. But Tennessee squashed any doubts on last Saturday, winning 41-20. Just a dominant performance, Jace, from this Tennessee defense.
Yeah, it was great to see our defense swarming around, made some big plays. Again, Kamal Hadden coming up with a big pick six, had like 5 sacks. Just big day for the Big Orange defense, and the offense was doing its thing. You know, sometimes weren't great, but I think overall played well, just besides some minor hiccups with some interceptions. I thought it was a really well-rounded game for the Vols.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Justin, you know, this Tennessee rushing attack just keeps dominate opponents. And we saw that on full display last Saturday as Jalen Wright, Dylan Sampson, Jabari Small all contributed in a big way. Jalen Wright going over 100 again. This trio of running backs continues to dominate this year.
Yeah, okay, finally, my turn.
There we go.
Yeah, it was a beautiful game plan going in. The running game really helped Joe settle in. He had 2 picks, but I think we can agree he looked pretty good this game. He was settling. He was connecting with his receivers. The rapport was there. And importantly, we just kept our defense off the field. That was something we struggled with. We were 7 of 15 on third down, and really had some long drives that the Gamecocks couldn't match.
Right. No, yeah, and, you know, South Carolina, I like that Tennessee overcame adversity a little bit because South Carolina goes up 10-7, you know, kept it really competitive there in the early parts of the first half, but Tennessee was able to pull away and then just completely dominate in the second half. Probably the biggest takeaway from this game and for the season potentially, and that is this pass rush, Jace. And the rushing attack we felt like was going to be really good this season. The pass rush, I felt it was going to be okay, but we didn't know if it's going to be better than last year's. But guys like Tyler Barron and James Pierce, who are now both top 3 in the SEC in sacks. James Pierce has 5. Tyler Barron has 4. These two guys have been just a wrecking crew living in the backfield all season.
Yeah, it's been really refreshing. You know, I feel like one of the big questions coming into this season was who's going to be on that big just pass rush attack since we lost Byron Young.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we thought early in the year it was going to be a little bit of Roman Harrison, and we've seen Tyler Barron be pretty consistent this year so far. And, of course, a pleasant surprise of James Pierce Jr. getting in the backfield. 5 sacks this year. Just that defensive front has been absolutely malicious, and I love it.
And the big thing is, like, getting to the quarterback with 4. It's been so great this year. We're just so talented with our front 4, and that's really helped our secondary this season. We'll get into it later, but our pass coverage, our pass defense is like top 12 in the country right now, which is something that, I mean, if you told us that before the season started, we think you're crazy. But the pass rush has really helped the coverage out, and we're getting a lot of coverage sacks.
Yeah, well, now we're in the bye week. Tennessee has no opponent tomorrow. And, since this is the bye week for Tennessee, let's take a step back and look at Tennessee, in a big picture type of way tonight. So I got some things I want to ask you guys. And let's start off with kind of what we've been touching on, surprises for Tennessee, guys and position groups that have exceeded expectations. So, Jace, I'll kick it to you first. What is a player or something Tennessee's doing really well that has exceeded your preseason expectations so far a month in the season?
One thing that, again, like Justin has said, our pass defense was a big question mark coming in this year. I think a guy that has stepped up and, of course, has been wary of controversy on internet, on the Twitter and stuff like that, has been Kamal Hadden. But despite all of that, I think he has definitely been by far the best coverage man for the Vols this year. Not only just with 2 interceptions, 6 pass breakups. It's just guys that he's covering just aren't getting that many targets. Granted, when they do get targets, that's when we get a little wary. But, just him in coverage has been great to see. I think it's been really refreshing. And we've got a lot of other guys that hopefully can follow in his footsteps and step up these next few weeks.
I know it's easy to say this coming off a game where he had a pick 6, and a big flashy play. But, a couple of weeks ago when he bumped Trevor Etienne and gave him even more momentum to go on and score a long touchdown, people were just not happy with Kamal Hadden at all. Calling for him to be benched, calling, what do you want to say? There's a lot of hate going on for Kamal Hadden. Is all that gone? Is all that eradicated? Are we back to, or I guess not even back, but it feels like the vibes for Kamal Hadden are so high right now, maybe the highest they've ever been.
So last year, he was an easy target because our secondary was the biggest weakness of our team, and we would just constantly get thrashed through the air. And he'd always be the one like riling up the opponent's receivers. He'd always be clapping in their face, and he's a big talker. But now he's finally backing it up. I love how a stat can really make you feel better about a player. And when the stat confirms what you're seeing, it helps even more. He got a 90. He has a 90 overall grade on PFF right now, which is like top something in the nation right now. It's one of the top in the SEC. But yeah, to see the stats confirm what we're seeing, it's big. And yeah, the pick 6 last week, I mean, that was perfect, man. And then he did the dirty bird after it. It was really like, I'm back.
I just think when you think about Tennessee's secondary, there's not been a lot of playmakers in the last couple of years. Alontae Taylor was a pretty good playmaker, but last year and this year, it just feels like there's guys, and there's not a lot of separation from the top of the secondary to the bottom in terms of talent. And I don't think Kamal Hadden is some super talented corner. He's been good in coverage, as you've said, Jace, but when you're talking about a playmaker and that kind of dog mentality, sometimes it burns Kamal Hadden, trash talking when you're getting blown out against South Carolina or squaring up to fight somebody after you got blown out by Florida. Those things you don't like to see from your player. But as far as just a playmaking, sense, I think Kamal Hadden is the best in Tennessee secondary.
I believe so too. Yeah. I think, like you said, we haven't had those big play guys. I feel like the last one that we've had, really like a true one, was Eric Berry. And granted, we were all children and like 5, 6, 7 years old at that point.
Yeah.
But having a guy that,
let's not compare Kamal Hadden to Eric Berry.
Oh, absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just in terms. I still think nobody will touch Eric Berry in that status as a Vol.
Right.
But just to have a guy that has stepped up this year. Last year we saw a little bit with Trayvon Flowers. I thought he played pretty well last year, making decent plays. But yeah, just having a guy that, somehow we can rely on in that defensive secondary is a big plus.
One name I do want to throw out is Cam Sutton. He was a good player.
Cam Sutton
was
a good
great.
point.
He's been a great hell of a pro.
Don't want to forget.
Yes, very good, very good.
But yeah, things are looking up for Tennessee secondary after that performance. I do think they can continue to improve, and getting Danico Slaughter back fully healthy. I know he played last week, but he's a really good corner for Tennessee as well. I'll go next, and then Justin last. And I kind of mentioned this a little bit, so I won't spend too much time on this player. But James Pierce, who saw this coming? Like, the buzz about James Pierce was pretty much non-existent in the preseason. The coaches weren't talking about him a lot. The media was talking about Joshua Josephs more than any other pass rusher. We knew what Tyler Barron and Roman Harrison were, but Josh Josephs felt like that guy that was going to break out. Well, that is not the case. James Pierce is breaking out in a big way for Tennessee. Has 2 2-sack games now, South Carolina and Virginia, I mentioned he's second in the SEC in sacks, only behind Dallas Turner. James Pierce is not only breaking out for Tennessee, but he's putting his name, he's putting himself on the college football map and maybe even one of the best SEC pass rushers this season. I mean, the stats speak for themselves, but moving forward, feels like James Pierce is going to be a huge part of what this Tennessee defense does.
Go ahead, Justin.
He looks like an NFL player.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He's 6'5", 240, and now we finally get the production to back up the athletic profile. And man, it's been an amazing revelation.
And a good thing about James Pierce, it's not like he's a senior; he's a true sophomore.
Yeah, true sophomore.
We got another year of this at least.
Talk about a best kept secret.
Exactly. That's what he's been, and just the twitch he has been living in the backfield, as I mentioned, all season. Justin, who has been a pleasant surprise, something that has exceeded your expectations for Tennessee so far.
So it's going to combine the two things you guys said. Jace mentioned Kamal Haddon. Jack mentioned James Pierce, and it's all helped the secondary abundantly. I'm going to throw out some stats here. In the nation, Tennessee is 12th in opponents' pass yards per game at 176. That's second in the SEC. In opponents' first downs per game, they're 9th, giving up 15. That's second in the SEC. Opponents' yards per play, 6th, first in the SEC, giving up 4.1 yards per play. And in the team sack percentage, 10.71% of opponent dropbacks they're getting to the quarterback. That is 8th in the nation, which is tied for third in the SEC. So, man, it's just been beautiful. The defense is alive. Like we talked about, maybe the defense will be better this year, but to actually see it and in a way kind of leading our team, it's been amazing. It's been amazing. Like nobody expected this. We all expected high scoring games between, we'll score a lot of points and the opponent will score a lot of points. But man, we're playing some SEC football, running the ball and containing opponents to, like I said, 4 yards per play.
Yeah, those are really good stats. And I think when we thought about this Tennessee defense heading into the season, we knew what Aaron Beasley was. I mentioned we knew who a couple of guys on the defensive line were. But really, if the secondary doesn't fall apart, this Tennessee defense is going to be able to stop opponents in the, moving forward in SEC play.
Oh, absolutely. Coming off of last week, if you would have told me that we would have held Spencer Rattler to under 200 passing yards, I'd be like, what are you even talking about?
Yeah.
But, now that that's happened and we've seen 5 games from this defense, I can kind of believe it. We've surpassed my expectations. Big props to Tim Banks getting these guys rallied together. And, of course, Rodney Gardner is always holding it down on the defensive front. But, yeah, just like you said, just incredibly pleasant surprise for the defense all around to be as solid as they've been so far. Hopefully we can keep that rolling against maybe a banged-up A&M team coming off of Bama. Who knows?
And depending on what you think about Brady Cook in Missouri, would y'all say Spencer Rattler is the toughest quarterback we play this year? Because I think so.
Yeah, I think it was going to be Connor Weigman, but he's hurt.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I think I don't know if the Devin Leary is going to be this bad is what I'm trying to say rest of the year. He's had a struggling start to the season, but I do think Devin Leary is a good quarterback. So I don't know, but right now it seems as if that's going to be the case.
But Rattler's probably the one we want to squash the most. Just how much
he has the most NFL talent. I'll put it that way. He has the most potential to dice you up, and we've seen it before. So yes,
sure.
He was the scariest. I think that's the word for Spencer Rattler. So let's go to the flip side of the coin. Let's talk about an area Tennessee that has not lived up to expectations, something that's been kind of disappointing because it hasn't been all flowers and rainbows for Tennessee. Obviously, they've already lost a game before the bye week, which is something a lot of people didn't expect. So, Jace, what is something that has been a little disappointing for you?
I hit on it a couple weeks ago before our UTSA game was just the lack of aggressive play calls on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball. Granted, these last 2 games have been a little bit better. We've seen some more shots down the field, some more swarming on the defense towards the football. But those first 3 games, man, just kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. Hopefully we've flipped that switch and have gotten that past us. But just knowing that our potential was so good in those first 3 games and our underperformance against both Austin Peay and Florida, it just kind of makes me think what we could be this year if it wasn't just for maybe just not opening the playbook enough on either side of the ball.
So you think that's fixed now after the South Carolina game?
I think we've got a little bit of confidence with us right now. I think that will help open that up. Like guys will be more eager to go out there and try something else, see what works, see what doesn't. But yeah, I think with the coaches knowing what we can do, I think that'll help ease that tension just a little bit.
I think the offense looked as innovative as it has all season last game. I
Absolutely.
saw a
Yep.
lot more motion, a lot
Yep.
more easier reads for Joe to make, and yeah, a big part of that was Squirrel Wright. I mean, we were talking about kind of where's that second year breakout guy been at? I mean, they had him and Joe Milton had such a good connection at the end of last season. It was kind of like, and we lose Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman. Just expected Squirrel Wright to step up, and we finally see that. And it seems like the coaching staff sees it because, man, at the beginning of that game, he was like a ball hog, basically. He was a workhorse receiver.
Yeah, he was. And I don't know if all my concerns about Tennessee's lack of aggressive play calling, as you put it, are squashed because Joe Milton didn't have the best game against South Carolina, and
Absolutely.
I still think Heupel doesn't fully trust him to make some of those intermediate throws. And now with Brew McCoy out for the season, it's only going to diminish what Tennessee can do, because I love Squirrel White, and he played a heck of a game against SC. He's a great down the field threat. He's great around the line of scrimmage. But, Ramel Keaton isn't a premier receiver in the SEC, and the young guys, we just going to have to see if anybody steps up. Maybe they can. Tight ends are limited. So, and they don't throw the running backs a lot, which is something I think they should do more. But I think we'll see Tennessee to just continue to lean on the run game, and that's what they should do.
Absolutely.
But it's not necessarily going to be like aggressive. And I'll kind of build off that, which is my point, which is something that hasn't lived up to expectations, been a little disappointing, is just the lack of big plays.
Yes.
And explosiveness on this offense. We talk about Milton's arm being stronger than Hooker's. You think maybe there's a little more explosiveness to the Tennessee offense this year. And last year they were so explosive. Well, that hasn't been the case. We've seen a couple of plays here and there, but I just don't know if this is going to get fixed. And I do think Tennessee is going to have to, grind out some games when usually they could just score so quickly. And I think a lot of that is just because of Joe Milton's limitations.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just with what we were on offense last year, we were just a different animal than this year. Not only just pacing wise, but like you said, play calling was completely different. Everybody knew that playbook in and out. It seemed like it. Yeah. We were so fluid, and it was just like at any moment that thing could turn sideways, and we could just go up 6 more points just at any given time. But like you said, just maybe there's some trust issues with Joe Milton and Josh Heupel not having the right chemistry right now, just knowing when and where to take those shots. Maybe I'm like you said, I'm not sure if we will find that solution. And like you said, grinding out games is probably what we're going to do. But I mean, we've got that. Yep. We've got that 3-headed monster to do it. So I mean, if we're good at that, let's do it.
Yeah, man. They say you never know what you got till it's gone. I think we feel that really heavy with Hendon Hooker, especially with the passing in between the numbers. I feel like all these big plays, all these drive extending plays from Joe Milton have been coming from passes outside the numbers, whether it is a quick hitch route or an out route or the go ball. I mean, last year there was so much more work going through the middle of the field, through Jalen Hyatt, through Cedric Tillman. And Jace, I think you're right. I don't think the trust is there with Joe Milton and Josh Heupel to scheme those plays up. It seems because, I mean, it is rare you see us complete a pass down the middle.
Yeah, but it's not the end of the world. And I'll add that last thing. It's okay that Tennessee's this way. Maybe it's going to take some time to just get used to running the ball and using those 3 guys. I mean, people were clamoring for Dylan Sampson to get used, but that means you're going to have to run the ball close to 30 times a game and give all of them 3 or 10 carries a pop. So I think that's what Tennessee should do, and they can win with Joe Milton. And, we'll talk about how the SEC is down in a little bit, but, they can win games playing like this, and that's okay. All right, one question before we go to break. When we talk about Tennessee and what we thought they were coming into the season, not many people had them losing to Florida, and then they get smacked by Florida. So I felt like the vibes on Tennessee after that Florida loss were definitely down. As I said at the top of the show, doubts crept in about SC, Kentucky, Mizzou later in the year. But then Tennessee goes out last weekend after they had dominated UTSA and dominate South Carolina with great defense, great running game. So now, Jace, are we back to square one with thinking all goals are attainable for Tennessee this season? Or is that Florida loss still burning in your mind more than the SC win? And do you still have more concerns than hopes of you?
That's a really good question. I have my answer here, but sometimes I like to dibble dabble in the extraordinary.
Okay.
I do think that we are back to square one, thinking that everything that we wanted to do this year is still very much on the table. Only one loss, granted, it was to Florida, again. That's going to be lingering with me that we lost to Florida, only because just I hate Florida so much. But I do think everything is still on the table. I think it all starts next week against A&M. Of course, it kind of has to, but will we take advantage of an A&M team that's going to be probably beat up just a little bit? They're going to be roughed up by Bama. That's just always a physical game. And then from there, can we roll that steam train into Alabama, maybe cause some fireworks? And then from there, it's just, can we win some tougher road games with, like you said, Mizzou, Kentucky still on the road too? It's interesting how this just season's going to unfold, man. I'm kind of excited, kind of scared.
I think the upside is a little bit limited at this point. I'm taking it week by week. Like, I really want to see how we do against Texas A&M before I have any opinions on how we'll do in Tuscaloosa. Just because that Florida loss, man. Like, we were riding high going into the season, thinking that offense can be explosive, and then it wasn't, and we still have some major glaring issues. So yes, my expectations are limited. I am just taking it week by week. I'm really not thinking about long-term expectations. But
okay. Well, Justin, when you look at the rest of the schedule, though, Georgia and Bama are not as good as we thought they'd be.
Exactly.
So even though Tennessee may not be as good as we thought they'd be, the goals to me are still attainable because that Georgia game looks a lot more gettable now after they've struggled with Auburn SC. And the Bama game looks about as gettable because they've struggled. And I know it's on the road, but, I just think, yes, it's not going to happen. But 11-1 still technically is on the table because you would not be that surprised if I told you Tennessee won at Bama or Tennessee beat Georgia in Neyland. So, yes, all goals are still on the table, and that's just because the SEC is down this year. Doesn't necessarily mean Tennessee's better than we thought.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, I don't know who's good in college football this year, so that's why I'm just taking it week by week, though. Just every week, find out a little bit more about each of the teams because it's just a lot of unknown at this point, Jack.
I'm sure Josh Heupel and the players have your same mentality. We're going to take a quick break here on Rock Solid Sports. When we get back, we're going to play some buy or sell as far as the SEC games this weekend before getting into some NFL talk here on Rock Solid Sports.
The Rock thanks the One Knox Sporting Club soccer team for their support. One Knox plays all of their home matches at Regal Soccer Stadium on campus, and the season runs into October with matches against Memphis, Chattanooga, Lexington, and more USL League One opponents. Tickets, including UT student tickets and game day info, is at oneknoxsc.com. And WUTK is proud to be a media partner with One Knox. Rock Solid Sports will be keeping up with One Knox soccer all season long. One Knox SC. We are one.
Volunteer Radio is supported by Fieldhouse Social, University Commons. Hosts a Wednesday night Rock Solid Sports broadcast at 7 p.m. Fieldhouse Social serves American craft food, beer, and cocktails. Featuring UTN Pro Sports on digital TVs around the restaurant 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. FieldhouseSocial.com and their Facebook page for news and more.
Hey, I'm Nick.
I'm Amelia.
We are Sylvanesso.
And you are listening to WUTK 90.3 The Rock, Knoxville's original home for independent radio.
Hey kids, it's Derek
and Rob from the Funhouse.
Brought to you each Friday night by Raven Records and Rarities, located at 1200 North Central in Happy Hollow.
Join us each Friday as we kick off your weekend with classics from bands like The Descendants, The Stooges, My Morning Jacket, Mudhoney.
Newer stuff from Amel and the Sniffers, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, Wet Leg, and Turnstile. You'll also catch some local stuff.
Hip-hop, Americana, metal.
Who knows? We don't even know half the time.
Every Friday at 8 o'clock, right here on 90.3 The Rock.
Hey, Jimmy from Out Loud Knox, how would you describe the show?
Music, blah, 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 blah.
The Funhouse is co-sponsored by your downtown destination, scruffycity.com.
The Rock thanks Knoxville Ice Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team for their support. Their 2023-24 home ice season from October through April includes games with Fayetteville, Huntsville, Roanoke, and more at the Civic Coliseum downtown. Single game and season tickets at KnoxvilleIceBears.com. Rock Solid Sports features Ice Bears Wednesdays with news and updates. Volunteer Radio says, go Ice Bears! Volunteer Radio thanks the UT Athletic Department and the men's basketball program for their support. Coach Barnes' 9th season on the Summit includes home games against Kentucky, Vandy, and more at Thompson Bowling Arena. Allballs.com. Student ticket info and login is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. Volunteer Radio says, go Vols basketball.
All right, everybody. Welcome back into the Friday night edition of Rock Solid Sports here on 90.3 The Rock. I'm your host, Jack Foster, joined alongside producer for tonight, Jace Brown.
Sir.
We got Justin Climmer across the glass. Vibes are high. It's fall break. We got, what's this thing called?
We got some like floaty skeleton on a disco ball back
Yeah.
here. Some party lights in
Yeah,
here.
some party lights, disco ball.
Having some fun
If you're
over
watching, you know what I'm talking about. I never know the name of that thing. But yeah, so we got a bunch of lights here in the studio. It's such a dope studio here in the basement of Andy Holt Tower. But
Sure is.
yeah, we talked some Tennessee in segment 1. Let's talk a little bit more just SEC football since it is the bye week and get into the weeds a little bit. Justin, I'm going to throw it over to you first. You'll play this game, buy or sell. So buy or sell this weekend determines the SEC East and West, as Kentucky is playing at Georgia, battle of the undefeateds, and then Alabama is at Texas A&M, and both those two look like the best teams in the West. So buy or sell this weekend determines both division winners.
I will sell the idea that the East will be decided this week. I think even if Georgia or Kentucky loses, Tennessee can beat both of them, and then it's like a 3-horse race at that point. Texas A&M, Alabama, I do think so. I do think so because Alabama already has that one loss. Texas A&M, they lost their quarterback, but Max Johnson has looked good. And, you know, this is going to be a way tighter game than I thought going in. I mean, the Lions, it's basically a pick-me game at this point. You know, in Aggie Stadium, it's going to be a crazy game. Implications down the road. I'm not exactly what to think of this Texas A&M team. I'm not sure how good they are. I'm looking at their schedule right now. It's really thin after Bama and Tennessee. So as far as the West goes, I mean, if they beat Bama, you feel pretty good about them beating Mississippi and probably LSU. So I'm going to buy the West.
Okay. Jace?
Yeah, I think I agree on both of them. I think I agree in the SEC West being decided and the SEC East being decided. I think Georgia just comes out, you know, night game tomorrow night. I think they play their first complete game of the year, show what they really are about, and maybe that flip switches. They don't look back. They show why they are the best team in the country and why they shouldn't be doubted. And I also think the same thing about the Alabama A&M game. I think both of these teams it's going to be scrappy. I already know. I know both of their, besides our game, I think both of them have pretty easy on the way out for the rest of this season. Alabama for sure. They've gotten past their little gauntlet. But yeah, I think the winner of both of those games goes on to Atlanta.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll buy the West too. Just because, you know, I think Ole Miss has flaws and LSU is way up and down. You don't know what team you're getting each weekend. So yeah, to me, it's either Bama or an A&M. And A&M could definitely win that game and then lose to Tennessee. Like, I do not think that would be a major surprise just because A&M always treats Bama as their Super Bowl. You know, the Jimbo Saban drama going back from last year. So, yeah, that could definitely happen. And then as far as the East goes, yeah, I'm hesitant to buy it. I think I'll sell ultimately because I do think Georgia wins. But if they win another nail-biter, then that just tells me that they're still pretty flawed and they could lose another game down the road, whether that's Tennessee or someone else that just creates more, you know, muckiness in the East, if you will. Because Kentucky could then win out and you never know what's going to happen. Georgia could lose twice for all we know. But I'm going to sell the East just because I think Tennessee could be good enough to make some noise there. And I think the jury's still out on Kentucky for sure. But they did look good last week against Florida. All right, next one, Jace. You can go first here. Buy or sell, Tennessee has a better chance of beating Georgia this year than Alabama.
You know, despite what I just said, thinking Georgia will turn it around, I think I might buy that one too, just because we are at home. You know, Bama looked a little bit better last week against Mississippi State. They seem to maybe have figured one thing out. Yeah. Not sure what. It just looked like Saban looked like his old self, getting on his players, you know, looking like the coach of old. He looked back to normal. But I do think that Georgia will have figured out all their miscues, like I've talked about, by the second to last game of the regular season. Bama is still very concerning just because it is on the road. But yeah, I do think as of today, we do have a better chance of beating Georgia than Alabama.
Justin?
I'm going to sell because I'm going to sell. I like our chances against Bama still a lot more than Georgia just because the defense. I think Joe Milton against the Georgia defense. Like that's just I don't like how that sounds. And then Bama obviously with the quarterback situation. It's been all up in the air, up and down all season. Jalen Milroe, I mean, he looks like he's finally separated himself a little bit, but he is more of an athlete than a passer, and I think our defense can contain that very well despite it being in Tuscaloosa. So I'm gonna buy.
You're selling.
Selling, yeah.
Yeah, I'll buy it because and the Florida game showed me that this Tennessee team just really, really struggles to get up on road games. You know, South Carolina, Georgia last year in these big environments. And, you know, Tuscaloosa, it's not like, you know, it's a great environment, but it's not one of the ones everyone talks about really. But that is going to be a tough environment just because Alabama lost to Tennessee last year. I just don't think Nick Saban loses that game. And I agree with Jace. It does feel like they've kind of figured some things out. They know who their quarterback is. Feels like they're clicking at the right time. We'll certainly see this weekend how much they're clicking. But I do think the Georgia game is now more gettable. I just have my concerns about Carson Beck, their ability to stop the run. Georgia's been great at that in the Kirby Smart era. They've kind of struggled in that area this year. And if their game plan on offense when times are tough is just throw it to Brock Bowers. So if somehow Tennessee can stop 19 in that game, then I think Tennessee actually has maybe a pretty good chance to win that game. The only thing I'll say that is unfortunate for Tennessee is that they get Georgia late.
Yep.
And you know, in a couple weeks, I could change my tune on this just because Georgia may have figured some things out. Yeah. Last one here, the buy or sell segment. Justin, Missouri is now a more difficult game than Kentucky for Tennessee. Buy or sell?
I'm going to sell, and it's largely based off of what Kentucky did to Florida. Ray Clark with over 200 yards on the ground. Ray Davis. And you said, I don't know too much about Devin Leary, but if you say he's probably going to turn it up later in the season, I believe it.
I mean, maybe.
And I just can't. I know Missouri's offense has been really good. Brady Cook has been cooking, but I just still think Kentucky's running game is more of a concern to us than Brady Cook.
I'm going to join you on the sell. You know, I think Kentucky is the better team between the two. Me and Jack were talking about it. Mizzou's won some nail biters. Kentucky whooped up on Florida, like you said, Justin. And, you know, Missouri, Como's going to be cold. We know that already. But I think Lexington will be cold too, and things just run a little bit deeper against Kentucky. There's just like a deep hatred. Probably my least favorite of my SEC rivals. I just hate Kentucky. I just think it'll be tougher in Lexington against a better team.
Yeah, both are on the road, so nothing's certain. But I'm definitely selling this, and I have a quick story I'll tell as to why I'm selling it. It's actually a funny story. So you know how Wednesday night, 2 nights ago, started this great stretch to where there's a football game on every night in college or NFL until late November or something. So that there were 2 games on Wednesday night. One of them was MTSU hosting Jacksonville State. And I go to dinner with my roommates and we're talking about it. And when we get back, my roommate, he was like, "Oh, let's bet on this game." I'm like, "Yeah, sure. You know, why not?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm taking MTSU minus 2.5 just because, you know, Blue Raiders and, you know, in-state school, they're at home." I'm like, okay, yeah. So I hammered MTSU minus 2.5. Like, not really thinking twice, just because he said it. And then we start watching the game. MTSU comes out to a 23-7 lead in the first half. I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, this is great. This is going great for me. And they go into halftime, 23-7 lead. In the second half, they proceed to absolutely – they had like 5 players who didn't know how to play football. I'm convinced. They completely fell apart. Dropped like the easiest touchdown ever. They did the Alabama thing that they did to Tennessee last year where the punt returner touches it when he shouldn't have, and then it's turnover. So many bad plays from the MTSU. They get outscored 38-0 in the second half and lose 45-23. Now you're thinking, how does this even relate to this question? Missouri only beat MTSU by 4 points. It was a nail biter against the Blue Raiders. If Missouri only beat that team, which I'm convinced is struggling to learn how to play the game of football for the majority of their team, then Missouri's not any good. So I'm selling this. The Tigers are fraudulent. I think they have a better chance at finishing 7-5 than 8-4 or 9-3, even though they're 5-0 right now. So yeah, Kentucky is a lot harder than Missouri. A lot harder. And plus, Josh Heupel hates Missouri. He has hung 60+ on their heads twice in a row. Don't think he can't do it again. November in Como.
I love the cross analysis right there.
I mean, you know,
they did not show
what does that say about Kansas State then? How low are they on the total?
Yeah, Kansas State blows.
Yeah.
That's all.
I'm not a Big 12 expert, Jace.
Oh, me either. Yeah. I'm just going for S's and G's, baby.
All right, let's switch gears here. Let's go over to the NFL. Last night, what a game. Bears at Commanders. Bears had a 14-game losing streak that was snapped as they beat Washington 40-20 behind a dominant performance from Justin Fields and really DJ Moore. but 8 for 230 and 3 tutties. What a performance from the Chicago passing game. Justin, got to throw it over to you as you are the resident Bears homer.
Come on, man.
And Bears believer, you've actually said Justin Fields may be better than Patrick Mahomes once.
When did that happen? I don't think I was here for that.
You woke up, bro.
So Justin, go ahead and take your victory lap. Are the Bears good now?
They're much better. So the offense finally looks like they're coordinated now. I think Justin Fields ran the ball 11 times this game. That was a good sign to see. They're finally using the guy they traded that they got from Carolina. They're finally using DJ Moore, the prize possession, the guy who's supposed to help Justin Fields take that next lead. And hey, man, like he has 8 tutties in the past 2 games. Like it's been really good. The running game has been the driving force of the offense, but the explosive plays are back. I'm really glad they're throwing the ball deep because early on it was just a bunch of short dump offs. Roshan Johnson led the team in receptions one game, 4th round rookie running back. So it's really nice to see DJ Moore excel and help Justin Fields maybe take that next step. But a bigger thing is no Claypool. 2 games without Claypool, Justin Fields got 8 tutties, 1 pick. I mean, it's something.
Man is locker room poison.
Yes.
Hey, I mean, what is that going to do for the Dolphins, man?
I think they're smart enough to not let it really affect them.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, Claypool's on his last leg in the NFL. This doesn't work out, he's donezo. But hey, DJ Moore, 531 yards so far this season, 5 touchdowns. The only other player in the 21st century to have 500 yards and 5 scores in his first 5 games with his new team, like the first year with his new team, is Randy Moss with New England in 2007. So that's like the best.
So he's exceeded the AJ Brown, Stephon Diggs trade comparisons then.
I mean, yeah, obviously there's a huge outlier in his season so far. But I mean, last 2 games has been great. I did hear Ryan Fitzpatrick say after the game, the whole, when a young quarterback gets that alpha receiver, like Allen did, like Hurts did, like, can we stop that narrative still? Please. They just dominated a bad Washington team who can't stop a nosebleed when it comes to deep ball. And DJ Moore, by the way, his yak last night was great. Like, he was making plays. He made Justin Fields look good. Let's not get it twisted. Justin Fields is not a good quarterback still. Last 2 games don't change my opinion. It shouldn't change anyone else's. Because DJ Moore carried last night. And
he did.
I think that'll still show. I'm not buying that the Bears are good now. Jace, what do you think?
I agree. I don't think that they're good. I think they can win a couple more games if the defense can step up like they did last night, making some stops, and if they can get those over the top balls and the more yak yardage like DJ Moore had. I swear he had like 230 last night of Justin Fields, like 280 pass yards or something
and
like that.
200 with
Justin Fields,
ridiculous.
Outside of Moore's stat line, Justin Fields completed 7 passes for 52 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah,
and did not complete another pass to a receiver.
Yeah, it's the Bears are still not great. I don't think they're very high on my totem pole anymore. Still, I think if the defense can make a couple stops, that offense can come around a couple games. They can win a few. Definitely still nowhere near a playoff team for me. This team is just still not very good.
Yeah, they're not good, but let's look at their schedule. They play Minnesota, Vegas, Chargers, New Orleans, Carolina, Detroit was tough, and then Minnesota again the next 6 games. So like they could get a little hot. Just saying.
Yeah, Vikes, Raiders, Panthers, 3 of the next 4. Is that right?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Or 3 of the next 5, maybe.
Yeah.
So maybe they could like limp their way to 3 and 6 or something. You know, they're not.
Besides that, man.
I think
they lose out on Marvin Harrison and Caleb.
Yeah, this showed that the Bears are not like just a complete gimme now. And I really think it pointed out some of Washington's defensive problems, and that could be a bad year for that team. I think Ron Rivera probably gets fired after the season, maybe mid-season if it really falls apart. But anyway. All right, moving on. Let's get into some storylines for week 5. So, guys, big week ahead in the NFL as we're through September. Let's see. I think October is kind of when we figure out which teams are, contenders and pretenders, that whole thing. So, Jace, when you look at this week 5 slate, what is one storyline you're keeping an eye on as you watch this weekend?
The biggest one, I think, for most people in this area, at least, has been the Cincinnati Bengals, and they are going out to Arizona to face Josh Dobbs and the Cards this week. Again, as we've seen, the Bengals have not been playing well, just not doing too much on the offensive side of the ball. Just, we saw last week, Justin, your boys at Nissan Stadium took down the Bengals.
I got chills.
Oh, nasty. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, they took down Joe Burrow.
Took down Joe Burrow several times. Again, it seems like he's just still kind of iffy, fighting that calf injury. Just doesn't look very comfortable at all. My big question is, will they be able to turn it around this weekend? And besides that, is there a chance to rebound slipping away? Because after this, their next 4 weeks is versus Seattle at home, who's been kind of iffy as it is, then a bye week, then they go to San Francisco, then they host the Bills. These next 4 matchups are going to be pretty key to seeing if their season does turn around.
Yeah, it's tough. Well, Justin, what do you think happens?
They need to protect their guy Joe Burrow. He's obviously a statue. He's just like he's not a moving target. He's just in there
sitting up.
Just blitz him. He's not going to move. He's going to take a sack. The O-line's not very good. And I think they need to protect their guy. Put him on IR. This season is a wash, especially if they lose to Dobbs and the Cardinals this week. And that's honestly, I think that's going to happen.
Is it a wash though? I mean, they're only 1-3. It's not completely gone.
It just hasn't really been any positives.
There really hasn't. It's just like I think Joe Burrow's thrown for 2 touchdowns, both to T. Higgins
in that one game.
In one game, and besides that, it has been very minimal effort. It feels like.
And you say 1-3, but two of those losses are divisional losses in a very tough division and conference.
Yeah, I think the Tennessee loss was the one that really made everyone realize how just behind the 8 ball Burrow is with his injury right now.
The blueprint's out, man. Just blitz him.
Yeah. Honestly, they just should have shut them down the first 4 weeks. Now they're just behind, and if they lose this weekend, it's over. 1-4, you're not coming back from. But I still have hope that. But it'd have to be this week, I have hope, but it literally would have to be this week against Arizona, where Burrow comes out and looks like Burrow. Unless there's some Jake Browning magic that could happen. Yeah, Bengals are on their last leg for sure. They got to have a big win this weekend. Justin, what is the storyline you're keeping an eye on this week?
So Broncos and Jets this week, all the stuff over the offseason between Hackett and Sean Payton specifically, when Payton said, Hackett's coaching job with the Broncos is one of the worst we've ever seen. And then you had Rodgers defending his offensive coordinator saying, keep my coach's name out of your mouth. So there's a lot of tension between the two of them. The Jets, they look good last week. Zach Wilson played one of the best games of his career last week. He looked like a real NFL quarterback. Making some Aaron Rodgers type of off-balance throws, just flick the wrist type of plays. But I'm really looking at Breece Hall here. I know Jack will agree with me. He was a superstar in the games he played last year before he tore up his knee, and he's been on a snap count. I think the most carries he's gotten in a game so far this year has been 8. And Salah said, he's unleashed. The shackles are off. I think against this disgustingly bad Broncos defense, he's going to go crazy.
I'll go ahead and accept that trade.
Oh yeah,
and Zach Wilson will have a decent game too. So I think a lot of positivity going in the Jets organization.
Yeah, I agree.
They're playing for Hackett,
right? Yeah, and this game would have been more fun, I think, if Rodgers is obviously active, just because he and Hackett are so close, and Rodgers was the one who said, "Keep my coach's name out of your mouth." But this is still a great matchup to watch, and it's just funny that Sean Payton and the Broncos have looked so bad after he said that about Hackett. And if they get their teeth kicked in by the Jets, that is the ultimate, flex for Hackett and the Jets. And I think they honestly will. I don't think it's a blowout, but I do think the Jets win just because of how bad the Broncos defense has been. And if they just have to feed Breece, play it safe, feed Breece, win the game, because Russell Wilson and that offense aren't going to, put that much points up against your solid defense. So. All right, my storyline I'm watching, I'm going to turn to Sunday Night Football for the game, which should be the game of the week. It's Dallas at San Francisco. San Francisco 4-0, Dallas 3-1, but 2 of the best teams in the NFL, 2 of the top 3 for sure in the NFC. And, the Niners have just looked like world beaters so far. Christian McCaffrey looks like an MVP candidate. Their defense has been the Niners' defense. Brock Purdy has been so efficient, so efficient. That arm injury is a thing of the past, doesn't even seem to be a factor. So what I'm watching for in this game is, can the Niners keep the ball rolling against this really tough Dallas defense? I know they're minus Trayvon Diggs, but it's still a great unit. And, same thing, vice versa. Can Dallas put up points against San Francisco? It truly is a battle of the best defenses with some exciting offenses, Jace. And I just can't wait to watch this game.
Yeah, it's really going to be an interesting dynamic. Like you said, both of these just great defenses, and both have just studs on offense. McCaffrey has been going off this year. Had 3-4 touchdowns last week. Just another incredible performance. 14 straight games with the tutty. Always put that in your your parlays. Just a little wink. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Both offenses have some tendencies to make some noise. Both defenses have already made noise. It's a kind of a coin flip for me because I think Dallas is going to come out swinging, and I think San Francisco is just going to have to answer for them.
Yeah, I think it'll be a low-scoring game. It's going to look a lot like the playoff game we saw between them last year, where the Niners won 19-12. They're returning, mostly the same rosters. But I think, the Cowboys defense might be a little bit better than the Niners defense, but it's so close. They're both elite defenses. And then on the offensive side of the ball, Cowboys have a good offense, but the Niners, it's like, that's a well-oiled machine, dude. Like, it's insane. So I think that, and the fact that they're at home will prevail them.
So y'all are taking San Fran?
Yes.
I'll take them.
All right. Yeah. Let's see how big the gap is between them and the rest of the NFC.
Yeah.
It looks pretty big so far with the Eagles kind of limping their way to 4-0 as well. All right. Let's just do a lock and upset real quick here before we take a break. Jace, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. I'll go for my lock pick. I think they're going to bounce back this week with a big win against a team that's just kind of been lazy this year. I'm going to take the Dolphins over the Giants out in Miami Gardens.
And your upset?
Upset will be the Houston Texans going down to Atlanta, toppling the Falcons this year. CJ Stroud has looked pretty darn good in that offense. Nico Collins, Tank Dell, both doing good things. I think it's going to be Houston by maybe more than a score.
Wow. Justin, we're AFC South guys. Do you think the Texans are going to win the division?
Man, I don't know. Everybody's 2-2. It's like everyone's at the same level. So,
I know, but Houston look probably the best.
Maybe because they were because they finished last in the division last year. They have the easiest schedule. So they very well could, but it's going to come down to all the divisional games. Like that's what's going to matter so much. And the Titans have been so good in that department in the past 3 years, and we're just really with Mike Vrabel this whole time. So I'm still favoring the Titans right there, but. Yeah, it's a surprise. The Texans have been, a revelation.
Yeah, I hope the Jags can figure things out. Just don't let Press Taylor call plays. That's all I got to say. Justin, who's your lock and upset?
So it's against your Jaguars. The Bills' highest point differential of the season. They got it. It's plus 84. Don't really got to explain much more than that. My upset this week, I think the Vikings are going to take down the Chiefs. The Chiefs always lose a road game when you don't expect them to lose every year. I think Cousins has been clicking all year despite the defense being terrible. It's going to be a shootout, but I think Jefferson and the Vikings are not making enough big plays.
Talk about saving your season. Like Minnesota's still okay. They're not a bad team. They got to get this win.
Yeah, they have
they can't go to 4-4.
They've done well on offense in most of their games. They've been putting up some points, but it's just getting over that hump with the defense, just letting up way too much.
Yeah, and the Chiefs, they lead the league in drop passes from receivers. Mahomes had a few head-scratching plays last week against the Jets, and I think that keeps this game in favor of the Vikings.
Before we go to break real quick, I don't know if we've talked about this. Maybe y'all did last week, but the Kelsey Swift situation. What's your temperature level?
I am tired of it, Mom. I know you're listening, and you're probably gonna smack me whenever I get out of here. But I am tired of it. I'm cool with wanting to expand the fan base. But there is a limitation to most people's sanity, and I think mine has been reached. It's just everywhere I look on social media when I'm just trying to figure some stuff out, I just see Taylor Swift peeking up from under the bottom of the search bar. I'm like, bruh, give me a break here. I think I'm done with it. I think Travis Kelce's done with it too.
Dude, I completely agree. What happened to the game we love, man? I just want to watch football.
That's all I want.
Is it really taken away from the game, though? Like, they only show
It's distracting, yes. It's very distracting.
She is the problem. It's her.
Because, the announcers are all buttering up and like, it's Taylor Swift. It's Taylor Swift.
Like cutting to her after an Isaiah Pacheco score is, just not needed. We don't need that.
Yeah, she's not scoring touchdowns.
No.
Maybe we don't need it. I honestly just kind of find humor in it. Like, I just think it's a little funny. It doesn't irritate me at all. Really.
It's just the volume of it is just like an outrageous amount, and I'm just tired of it. Let's play football, boys.
I hope they break that.
It'll subside.
Absolutely.
I know the NFL said it won't. Like, they're going to continue pushing the narrative, but I think it'll eventually subside. And you just gotta kudos to Travis Kelce. I mean, to me, the story of how he started dating Taylor Swift is awesome. Like the whole buying her, what was it, bracelet, right?
Like a bracelet at the concert.
And calling her out on his podcast. I don't know if all that was just theatrics setting up their relationship. Maybe it was. everything's TV.
I feel like it definitely could.
But if that was legit how it happened, that's pretty awesome. So let's celebrate it. I don't have a problem with it.
It'd be cooler if Kelsey was going crazy, like the Taylor Swift game or something.
we need a
He's
Travis
just been-
Kelsey legacy
he's been
game.
all right.
We haven't seen one this year. So.
I know. He looks a little slower. I'm starting to get worried. But anyway, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, got a little NBA news. Going to kick it over to our NBA expert, Justin, to break down a big trade that happened in the NBA this past week when we come back on Rock Solid Sports.
90.3 The Rock thanks the UT Athletic Department for their support. The 2023 football Vols will play home games at Neyland Stadium against SEC rivals South Carolina, Georgia, Texas A&M, and others. allballs.com for info, with a link at wutkradio.com. UT student ticket info is at bigorangekicks.utk.edu. 90.3 The Rock says, Go Vols!
The Rock thanks Knoxville Ice Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team for their support. Their 2023-24 home ice season from October through April includes games with Fayetteville, Huntsville, Roanoke, and more at the Civic Coliseum downtown. Single game and season tickets at KnoxvilleIceBears.com. Rock Solid Sports features Ice Bears Wednesdays with news and updates. Volunteer Radio says, Go Ice Bears!
Support for WUTK comes from Fieldhouse Social, the modern sports bar next to campus at University Commons. Fieldhouse Social serves American craft fare such as burgers, wings, and more with high tops around the bar, a separate dining area, and a center lounge with leather chairs and couches in front of their 23-foot LED TV wall for Tennessee and pro sports. Fieldhouse Social is an outdoor patio with trivia twice a week and sponsors Wednesday's Rock Solid Sports. FieldhouseSocial.com.
This is John Ward of the Vol Network. You're listening to 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
The Rock thanks Cool Beans 1817 Lake Avenue, 1 block south of the Strip, for sponsoring and hosting the Monday night Rock Solid Sports broadcast at 7 p.m. Cool Beans is the pre- and post-game location for UT football and Knoxville's home for the NFL Sunday Ticket, Titans on the big screen, and more. Rock Solid Sports kicks off Monday Night Football with the shows live from 7 to 8 p.m. at Cool Beans. Cool Beans is 21 and over after 9 p.m. with a full and late night menu. CoolBeansBar.com or their Facebook page.
The Rock thanks the One Knox Sporting Club soccer team for their support. One Knox plays all of their home matches at Regal Soccer Stadium on campus, and the season runs into October, with matches against Memphis, Chattanooga, Lexington, and more USL League One opponents. Tickets, including UT student tickets and game day info, is at oneknoxsc.com. And WUTK is proud to be a media partner with One Knox. Rock Solid Sports will be keeping up with One Knox soccer all season long. One Knox SC. We are one.
Hi, this is Derek and Rob from the Funhouse. It was brought to our attention that our show and the things that we do could be seen as childish and not funny, sophomoric, vapid, stupid, and a complete and utter waste of time.
We strive to bring you the most entertaining radio that we're capable of each and every week.
So won't you please continue to support us and the station? Tune in every Friday night from 8 to 10 p.m. only on 90.3 The Rock. The Funhouse. Syphilis free since 2013.
Stop by the Funhouse Friday nights from 8 till 10 only on 90.3 The Rock.
The Funhouse is proudly sponsored by Raven Records and Rarities and Happy Holler, providing Knoxville with vinyl and more for nearly 40 years. And by ScruffyCity.com, your downtown destination.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back into the Friday night edition of Rock Solid Sports here on 90.3 The Rock. I'm your host, Jack Foster, joined alongside the producer for tonight, Jace Brown. And we got Justin Clemmer across the glass. We've had a fun night here on Friday night. Really laid back, three-man show. You know the vibes. And to close us out, we're going to kick it over to Justin, our resident NBA expert. Justin, there was a big trade that happened, I want to say Sunday or late
last week,
Saturday, maybe.
Just in general, I can scream. I'm so excited for the NBA season. But Damian Lillard is a Milwaukee Buck. This is huge. The Bucks sent Drew Holiday, Grayson Allen, and some other picks. We don't have to get into it. But what matters is Damian Lillard is paired with Giannis Antetokounmpo. This might be the best duo we have seen since Kobe and Shaq. How good is it? Well, there has never been a duo who have both averaged more than 30 points per game in the previous year, team up and be on the same team the following season. Giannis at 32, Dame at 31. Dame is 33, coming off a career year. And this is so important because Giannis was talking about how he's not sure he's going to sign an extension with the Bucks, which the number one players on the market, that's a big deal. And, Milwaukee's front office said, hold on, we got you. And they give him the second best shooter of all time. Let's not forget how good Damian Lillard is. I mean, he has the most three-pointers made of all time from 35 feet. He does shoot more deep shots than Stephen Curry. He's an absolute killer. And in terms of play style, man, I mean, what are you going to do when you see Dame bring the ball up and Giannis is coming for the pick and roll?
It's Dame time.
The play styles are opposite, but they mesh perfectly. I mean, Dame said it himself. I mean, if you want to focus on Giannis on the pick and roll, I'm just going to hit 9 threes a game, which he absolutely could do. It is amazing. Dame scored 71 points last year. He is still that guy. What do you guys think?
But they lost Drew Holiday, so
that's big. Yes.
Yeah, he's a heck of a defensive player.
But
do you think that's going to hurt them at all?
In terms of team defense, I don't think it'll be more important than the gain they'll get on the offensive side of the ball. They still have Brook Lopez down low, who was second in defensive of the year voting last year. And obviously, Giannis is still Giannis.
And Chris Middleton's still good.
Chris Middleton is still good. He's still a lengthy
got a
wing that
nasty
can
four
defend.
right there with those guys.
In terms of down low in the paint, I mean, for the Jokic's and the driving Tatums and Jaylen Browns, the LeBrons and the Anthony Davises, like their defense is still going to be amazing. And this whole time we thought Dame was going to Miami, and it didn't happen. And now Jimmy Butler's turned emo.
Yeah, I was about to say, if anything sparked from this, at least we got emo Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
But one of my roommates is a Celtics fan, and as we know, Drew Holiday did get dealt from the Blazers to the Celtics. Even though it did cost the Celtics both Malcolm Brogdon and one that probably hurt my buddy's feelings the most, Robert Williams, down low in the paint. I mean, he's hard to hate, man. He's just a baller. They also lost a first-round pick, 2 first-round picks at that. But yeah, it's just Dame plus Giannis plus Chris Middleton plus Brook Lopez, second place in defensive player of the year. That team, are they the favorites in the East now?
Well, the East is a 2-horse race at this point.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. 2-horse race. Who you got as the other one? I think I got Celtics on this.
I'm going to take Milwaukee just because the star power is just like that. We've already seen Giannis win a chip. Not by himself, of course. He's always had a decent supporting cast, but Giannis is that guy, and I think he's coming for the crown after Jokic's taken it for the past few years.
So let's talk about Boston for a second. They obviously get Drew Holiday, but lose those 2 guys Jace alluded to. Justin, I mean, how does this affect Boston? Do you think they're better or worse now?
Oh, they're much better. So they lose Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart.
Yeah, that was
defensive player of the year, but they get back Porzingis. They really haven't had they haven't had a really good forward in a while. Al Horford, yes, he is a forward, but he honestly fits more as a center in a lot of times. That's why Rob Williams got shipped to Portland. Porzingis is going to help them a lot. I mean, 7'3" guy who shoots like 38% from 3. You just never really see that. He's kind of one of a kind. And Tatum, Brown, they continue to grow every year, even since they were 20. I mean, they're playing deep into April, into May. They're getting this experience. Came up short in the finals, but now you add Drew Holiday, a guy who is many players say is the best perimeter defender in the league, and he is a much better offensive player than Marcus Smart. And now that he's on Boston, I mean, so when he was on the Bucks, he would get arguably the first or the second best perimeter defender that he would go up against. Giannis would get like the best interior defender, obviously. But now with the Celtics, I mean, he's going to be getting the third defender at worst, with Tatum and Brown leading the way. So it's just perfect. It fits like a glove. And Drew Holiday is such a winning player. If you love defense, man, you'll love Drew Holiday.
Justin, do you get up more for the start of the NBA season or NFL season?
Well, since football has not gone as planned kind of this year, I've been very excited for the start of this NBA season because, man, like my Knicks are looking good. LeBron, year 21, still doing windmill alley-oops to himself off the backboard. I'm just very excited because, man, we'll have sports every night.
I know, man. College basketball starts soon, too.
The equinox is
end of October. We're getting there.
Tennessee a media day a couple days ago.
Midnight Madness soon.
There we go, man. Best time of the year. That'll do it for this Friday night edition of Rock Solid Sports. For Justin, for Jace, I'm your host, Jack. Everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy the bye week. Take football season in. It's not going to be around forever. So have a good weekend, and we're going to enjoy fall break ourselves. Until next time, peace.